Hello, everyone. It's Francine. I'm here on My Two Cents. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited about this show. I love talking about caregivers. My last show, When Autumn is Here, was about caregivers. So today we're going to talk about a caregiver who um, takes care of her dad, a primary caregiver of her dad, but she also has support. But it's still challenging. It's still challenging, and it still is, very difficult to navigate. So we want to talk about that because everybody has a different situation as a caregiver, but there are still different things that challenge you. Some people are doing it by themselves, and some people are doing it with other people, and still it's still challenging for them. So I'm so glad you came in tonight to join us today on My Two Cents. I really appreciate that. Today we're gonna how we do it is that we talk about the last show and some other shows that we had previously, so we can kind of have the conversation because I usually interview people and I don't get to stretch out some of the points. And especially on this one, this young lady made some really, really good points. Her name is Beauty Whitfield, and she made some really, really good points that we should stress and that other people may be going through. So I don't want you to miss the points, the fine point of our interviews. So that's why we're here today. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad that whoever's coming in now, we appreciate you coming in, and we're glad to see you today. I'm not here by myself. I'm here with Evelyn. Evelyn from the founder of No Ceiling Network. How are you this evening?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I am excited to be here. I really enjoyed this interview that we had. It was like very authentic, and I believe that other people can really relate to it because it's just about jumping in and taking care of your parent, and then the floodgates open. Illness happens, and you have to talk to all these people and all these different things, and it's really tough, really difficult. It's really difficult.
Yes, yes. Okay, so you know the drill. We got to say hello to everybody. Hey,
Oh,
Raven. Raven's
hi,
first
Raven.
comment of the night. Hey.
How you doing, Raven?
Thank you for
Thank
hopping on
you.
and listening. If you are watching live, go ahead and give us a hashtag live in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I am Evelyn Wilson, as Francine said, the founder of No Silly Network, and I'm super excited to be here today. So if you're watching, guys, go ahead and let us know that you're watching. Let us know where you're watching from.
Mhm.
And before we hop into the subject tonight, Francine is going to give her spiel about Autumn is Here for those who have never heard it before. The 8 billion guys out there who may have not heard it before. So I am going to relinquish the floor to you, Francine. Tell us all about Autumn is Here and why you started it.
Well, I'm so glad that everybody's here today. And those of you who are coming in, if you don't know about Autumn is Here, is a podcast that I do, and I do it every Sunday. It's a podcast where I support caregivers and I allow them to tell their story. I give them a platform, and I also give them information about healthcare and different things. And I don't do it; I call experts to do it. So um, I'm grateful to do it because I know that other people needed help. Because when my mom had Alzheimer's, I didn't have any information or any help or anything like that. So not I didn't know where to go. I didn't know the questions to ask. I didn't know about the disease. I didn't know where to go for support. I didn't know there was support out there. I didn't know anybody else that was going through it with me. So Autumn is Here is giving people that platform and giving them that information to help them to know that they're not alone and that there is some support depending on what their situation is. Different places, different agencies, and other people, who can share their experience, which can help you if you understand other people's experience. That can help you also. So that's why I started my podcast, Autumn is Here, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I'm really very proud of it. And I hope that you get information from it. So, hello everybody out there. Hello Lizette. Um, hello. Uh, I know you're from Delaware, but I see New York in the building. Brooklyn is in the building. So I, I love my hometown. I'm from Brooklyn, so I love Brooklyn, especially the support that I get from Brooklyn. So I really appreciate that. So yeah. So now we're going to go into my 2 cents,
Yes,
and we're going to talk
yes.
about my last show. My last show. Now,
Awesome.
some of you may not have seen the show. Some of you may not have seen the show. So let me just recap. It's Beauty Whitfield. She is a caregiver of her primary caregiver of her dad, and she also has support from her brothers, and I believe she's the youngest of 4 or 5 brothers, and but they give her support, and her mom is still alive, and well, everybody's pitching in, but it's still a lot for her, and she's a therapist, and it's still a lot. That just goes to show you how much stuff it is to take care of someone who is ill, and all the things that you have to do. And she did pinpoint all of those things in the actual interview. And it's really, sometimes we think, well, if you don't have any help, of course it's going to be hard. But even when you have help, it's hard. And I don't want people to miss that point. Even when you
Yeah.
have help, it's hard. So that's why it's better to know some information beforehand.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it was I got a chance to watch the episode. It was a really good episode, very authentic, genuine, heartfelt.
Yes.
I could really feel what she was talking about. And even the people who commented could feel
Mhm.
that as well. I saw that
Mhm.
resonate through the comment section.
Yeah.
Yeah, so super excited to hop into this conversation. Before we continue though, guys, go ahead and share, hit the share button,
Mm.
and let somebody be able to see this who might not have known about it. Okay, so just share it on your page, so that we can reach more people.
Mhm.
Beauty, she's an amazing woman. I
Mhm.
actually know Beauty.
Okay.
Met her a few years ago. But the only reason I bring that up is because I think later on I realized that she was caring for her father. But when
Mm.
I was really active with her, um, she just, I don't know, she exuded like this joy and this, happiness. And so you would never know what she was
Mm.
going through. And from
Okay.
listening to your episode, I think she's been caring for her father since like what, 2015,
15, 16, something like that.
twenty
Yeah. Yeah.
sixteen.
Yeah.
And so I knew her back then, and I did not know that,
Mm.
she was carrying this heavy weight. So that is another point that I think would be great to hone in on is, I'll say it like this: checking in on your strong friends. Checking in on your strong friends, because
Mhm.
she's a strong friend. She's a therapist. She
Right.
has all of the credentials, we would assume has a lot of resources, has a family backing her. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, she was still carrying a heavy weight.
Right.
So,
Right.
how important is it for people to check in on caregivers? Is that a thing that you recognize on the journey of doing Autumn is Here podcast?
How important it is to check in on caregivers. It's very
Yes. Do
important,
you
but
think, yeah.
a lot of people don't, they don't understand what you're going through unless you've gone through it. When
Uh-huh.
people start doing it and like, okay, well, my parent is old, or my aunt, my uncle is old, you're going to take care of them. And then when you get involved, you realize how much it is. So you don't really understand how much someone is going through. Like, okay, they're taking care of their dad or their mom. Okay, and it's kind of like a general thing, but it's not in general. There
Mhm.
is a lot of detail that goes with that,
Yeah.
and that's the thing about having caregivers share their stories, so you understand that it's not just, you love them, you take care of them, you make sure that they have a home attendant, and that's it. It's not that. It's the paperwork. It's the finding out, what their medical is, and what coverage they have, and about their finances, and depending on what the illness is, how to assist them if they need, to be mobile or stuff like that. How to get equipment? How do you get equipment from them? How can you afford this?
Yeah.
Is their house suitable for them right now because they're going through something? How to get a caregiver? How many hours can you get? What's allowed? You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that you have to go through that nobody really understands until they go through it. And it's like, wow, there's a lot. And
Hmm.
that's why we like to have people share their stories, and we like to talk to people who are in the industry so they can tell people, like, this is what you need, or these are the things you're going to have to go through, and
Absolutely.
prepare ahead of time if you can.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask how many people in the audience, we may not have anybody, but how many people in the audience are caregivers or a caregiver? Let us know in the comments if you're a caregiver or if you know a caregiver. We are live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube right now. So I want everybody in all those platforms to let me know. Are you a caregiver or do you know a caregiver? Okay. And if you know a caregiver, from what we just talked about just now, just take that away from this conversation that check in on them. You may not know exactly what they're going through. And if you think you have an idea, just multiply that times what, 10,
Mhm.
20,
Yeah.
50, 100,
Yeah.
because they're going through it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely check in on them. And, um, sometimes you can be a friend and mean well, but there are sometimes you put pressure on them. They're already going through pressure. Please understand that. Caregivers are
Mm,
already going through pressure, and like their life has changed and they
yeah.
don't have the freedom and the flexibility that they have before. And sometimes when, your friends, they're used to you and they're used to you being active and being ready to
Hmm.
go out and ready to do things and participate. And when you do that, and now your life has shifted and they don't understand it because they're not caregivers or whatever. They don't understand it. They'll keep asking you to go out, keep asking you to do this, keep
Right.
asking you to do that. And it's
Right.
great to keep asking. But when the caregiver says, no, I can't, try not to push it. Try to say, okay, I
Mm,
understand, maybe next time. Because
yeah.
people don't realize how that feels when you have to make so many decisions and you want to go out, but you
Hmm.
realize your life is not set up like that anymore. And
Yeah.
it's hard, and it puts pressure on them because they feel that, they're tugged. And then when somebody else says, well, come on, well, why don't somebody else, can somebody else do it, can things like that. And it's like, okay, if I had somebody else to do it, I would have had somebody do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a few comments in the comment section. But
Hmm.
before we hop into those, what you just said was profound. And I think it even works for those who may not even be caregivers, but just for people who are having transitions in life, period. If you're in a different state in your life, whether you're a caregiver or whatever it is you're doing, sometimes you can't show up like you used to show up. So,
Right.
as a friend, understanding that, still asking like you said, because you don't want to feel, leave your friends out or
Right.
whatever. But when they say they can't do it, just understand, like, don't pressure them to do,
Hmm.
something that they really can't do. So I love that point. I just wanted to reiterate that. So I had another question too, but I'm gonna hop into the comments and I'll
Okay.
save mine for
Sure.
later. So Lizette said, I was a caregiver for my mom. I also worked with an agency where we were responsible for managing caregivers. Okay, Lizette. So you know all about caregiving. You know what's going on. Lizette, if you could just share in the comments if you have any instances where you needed support maybe and you didn't receive the support that you needed, or you didn't receive it in a way that you needed it. Let us know in the comments if you have any stories about that. Before we go to the next comment, I wanted to ask a question. So when we know that caregivers, it's tough even when you have support, right?
Hmm.
But if you have friends and family who want to support you, sometimes, and I'm setting up the question with a little extra, but sometimes people want to support in ways they think you need support. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? Like,
Yeah.
people want to show up how they think you need them to show up, right?
Right. Right.
But as a caregiver, you've had that experience, and Lizette says she had that experience, maybe some other people in the comments. How do caregivers actually need us to show up?
Well, it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
So, you may think that and it's okay to offer your help, but offer your help and ask them, what do you need?
Yeah.
Some people need
Yeah.
specific things. Some people need a rest. Some people
Mm-hmm.
need somebody to pick up the groceries because they just don't have the time.
Yeah.
Some people need somebody to maybe on Wednesdays, can you just make a meal because that's my late day and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Some people need somebody to drive them back and forth to the doctor, or every once in a while. So you have to ask them. And caregivers, you have to tell people, don't be
Ooh.
afraid to reach
Yeah.
out and say, listen, I really need help taking my parent to the doctor on Tuesday evenings. Is somebody can do that? Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mhm.
A lot of times they need things that are not so grand, but
Mm,
nonetheless they need it, and it feels good when you get it. It's like it may not be a big deal, but it's a big deal to me. If I don't have
mhm.
to worry about getting my person together and then going to the grocery store, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
um it seems like it's a little thing, but to a caregiver who's doing multiple things and probably taking care of their family too, maybe they have kids, maybe they work, for to a caregiver that's doing everything, that one little thing is great.
It helps.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
one time a friend of mine, I had to get away. Like I had to get away. I was like overwhelmed, and I had to ask her to come sit with my mom for that weekend, and she did, and it was great, and I really appreciate that.
Mm,
But that's what I needed at that time. You know what
I
I mean?
love
Now
that.
I didn't need that every week, but I needed it at that time.
I
So.
love that. Yeah, I was just wondering about that because sometimes people like to show up how they want to show up. And listen, sometimes that's more harm than it is good. Okay. Deborah said, "Good evening. I'm a caregiver." And then she said, "Yes, it's tough. At times you have to force yourself to go hang out and enjoy yourself." Wow. That's a big
Mhm.
thing. Did
Yeah.
you find yourself in moments where, so there's times where you just can't do it, right?
Hmm.
But then there's times where you might get in like this type of a rut where you haven't been going out and doing
Hmm.
things, so you just don't want to. So did you ever feel like you had to kind of force yourself to be social and go out?
Oh yeah, yeah. There were times. Well, there were times you want to, and you're just too tired. You just really physically drained. Like I mean, I remember times when I didn't want anybody to talk to me. Like I didn't want anybody to call my name because I
Mm,
was just too tired. And even if I wanted to go out, I preferred the peace. You know.
mm,
And then sometimes you have to set it up for yourself, and you do. You have to take some time for yourself. You have to,
yeah,
because it just wears on you, and it wears on you mentally, emotionally, and physically. It'll show up. So
yeah.
you need to schedule that in. Caregivers need to schedule that in. Schedule your own time, your own peace, whatever it is that gives you peace,
Yes.
whatever it is that gives you um, a time to relax. Whether it could be going out and dancing and hearing music and having a good time with a bunch of friends, or it could be just you going to the park and relaxing, or going to a quiet place to read a book. I mean,
Hmm.
whatever it is that gets your mind relaxed, and you can just maybe it's just you thinking about you for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of the things that you're saying sounds like good old self-care, and I
yeah,
think and I've recognized this as I've listened to your podcast and worked with you. A lot of the tips and tools that we receive, not all, but a lot of them, we can apply them to many situations because at the end of the day, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be any good for anybody else. And I
right.
think it's times 10 when you're a caregiver because
Mhm.
when you are prioritizing someone else, it's really hard to prioritize yourself. And so, yeah,
Yes, yes. Mm.
yeah, I really, really get that. So Lizette said, "Yes, Lord," and I think Lizette was talking about when people offer help that is not, help that you really need. Deborah chimed in and she said, "Caregivers would love it if people volunteered to help." And we mentioned that before. I love that. So volunteering to help, y'all, asking the questions, not just stepping in and doing what you think is
Mhm.
needed,
Right.
but really just asking and having that conversation.
Yeah, it's
uh
it's good to have somebody volunteer to help.
yeah.
Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. But it's good to have people to volunteer to help you to do whatever it is. Like sometimes people will be like, "I'm free. What do you need?" You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That's like the
Hmm.
best. Like, "I'm free. What do you need?" Because sometimes caregivers don't feel like it's their obligation to take care of their parent, so they feel uncomfortable asking someone else.
Asking for help.
Because the person you ask may not be somebody in your family,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
you might know that your family is not going to do it. So
Yeah.
now you feel a little embarrassed to ask somebody outside your family to help.
Hmm.
But if you need
Hmm.
that help, it's important to get that help.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I'll chime in there too, though. Sometimes it's hard to ask people for help, period. But I
Yeah,
think that
absolutely.
like we have this narrative in our head of what people are thinking. and we really don't know if that's the case. It's like
Hmm.
something that we'll, kind of say to ourselves, and it'll hinder us from getting the help that we need. So yeah, speak up when you need help, guys. So
Hmm.
the comment section is popping today. Okay. Lizette, I think I asked for stories earlier, so I think Lizette is sharing a story here. She said, when I cared for my mom, I felt that everyone in my family was going on with their lives,
Mm.
and I lived with my mom. And thank God my nephew would come on Sunday mornings so that I could at least go to church. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. 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 You feel like everybody else is going on. And those are emotions, you want to feel like, okay, I'm good with it. But sometimes you're not good with it. It's like you're
Mm-hmm.
watching everybody just go ahead and keep on with their life. And you're there, and you need to be there, and you want to be there, but you also want somebody to say, hey, somebody to notice you, to say, hey, you know what? She really is not getting a break.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want people to step up.
Yeah.
You want people to step up, but just know that everybody doesn't step up.
Mm-hmm.
And not judging or anything like that, but the reality of it is that everybody doesn't step up. You can have 25 sisters and brothers, and it'll be one person that steps up and be the primary person. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So in Beauty's story, she mentioned that she has a big family, and
Hmm.
they actually work well together
Yeah.
with the care. But she was talking about how, in the Latino community, the sister, is supposed to step up,
Yes. Yeah.
and take care of all of that, right?
Yeah.
Um from Lizette's response that she gave, I pulled from that you never know who it's going to be, because she said her nephew. I don't know that you would expect the nephew to step up. You might expect the sister, or whatever, but
Yeah.
it may be somebody unlikely that is going to give you the help that you
Yeah,
need. Yeah.
exactly. And accept it, but yeah, and accept that maybe the person that's closest to the person that's ill or whatever is not going to be the person.
Hmm.
Some people shut down, some people just don't want to do it. Some people just don't want to do it. I don't know why, but they don't want to do it. And it's necessary. It's when something is necessary, you just kind of have to jump in and do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but like with Beauty, she was saying that she's burnt out.
Hmm.
She's a therapist. She goes to therapy, and she has help, and she's still burnt
Burnt
out
out.
by trying to figure out the medications, trying to talk to the doctors, the social workers, and everything, probably physical therapists or whatever, therapy or whatever they may give them. Trying to make sure the business is in place, the paperwork and all that stuff like that. She's burnt out, you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
and she recognizes that,
Yeah.
and that's even with help. So
Yeah.
it's just difficult. It's just difficult,
Yeah,
Mm.
so I want to ask a question about that, but I'm going to go to the comments, but I don't want to forget it. So basically, we'll come back to it, but I'm going to say it now. When you find yourself getting burnt out, what do you do? Okay, but we don't want to
Mhm.
jump into that right now because we do have some more comments. But
Okay.
let's think about that. When you find yourself being burnt out and you recognize it, what do you do? Lizette said here, one of the hardest things is seeing the decline of your loved one. Yeah, yeah, for
Yes,
sure,
yes. It's,
for
it's it's
sure.
it's nothing that you can do about it, and you want to help them, and you feel awful for them, but it's taking a toll on you
Yeah.
because you want to help them, you want them to be better, and when they're not, like in the form of Alzheimer's, it doesn't get better. So when it doesn't get better, and you see
Mm.
the decline, it just hurts you more because it's like it's really nothing you can do because it just doesn't get better, you
Does
know.
there have to be a level of acceptance that you come to in order to continue, on that journey, or what does that look like?
I think it helps. I don't think that comes like right away. You kind of accept that this is a situation and you're doing whatever you're doing, but
Hmm.
I think it takes some time for you to accept that. Okay, um, this I have to deal with this, and
Yeah.
this is not going to get better. And I think it takes a lot to kind of accept it, because
Hmm.
if you can accept it and you can do something about it, it would be easier. But when you accept something and you can't do something about it, it's kind of like you have to, okay, I can do this, I can accept this, this is what it is. And then you kind of have to reinforce yourself again. You know what I mean? Because it
Hmm.
changes. The
Yeah.
situation changes. Their state of health changes. And it's like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna, have to go through this. Or I didn't know, you know what I'm saying? Or when you deal with this, a certain part of it, it gets worse and you kind of have to go back into, okay, this is what it is,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
prep yourself and help yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually a journey. Like it doesn't always stay the same. Things
Mm.
change and you have to adjust. Wow. So we had a few comments. Sharon said, "You feel helpless and it weighs on you." Yes, Sharon.
Hmm.
That's what we were
Yeah,
talking about. And Deborah said, "Yes, it does hurt you tremendously."
it does.
Lizette had another comment. I saved it for last because, this is my 2 cents, right? And so
Hmm.
sometimes we gonna be a little serious, and then sometimes we gotta throw in a little something extra. But I got a little. How do I say this? A flip side of the person who steps up. Okay.
Hmm.
Lizette said, "Some people by nature are just not caregivers. It's got to be in you. It's got to be in you." Yeah. You have
Okay.
something to say about that? Because I got a little 2 cents to share about that.
Well, I mean, that's the point. It's just like everybody's not a nurturer. Everybody's not. There are people who have children who are not good parents, not because they're bad people, because they don't really feel it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess everybody is just not a caregiver. Um, and there are people who are not caregivers internally, like that kind of giving person. But there are
Mhm.
people who are not, but will step up. And I know them.
Mm.
I know people who really rather not do it, but
Yeah.
they have done it because it
Mhm.
was something that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And they were the person. So even if they weren't that caregiver like in their heart, like, oh God, I really wouldn't want to do this. If I had somebody else to do it, they would do it. I've
Yeah.
seen other people like just step up and do it and then go through it and come out different on the other end.
Yeah.
I will say that they came out different on the other end,
Yeah.
and they kind of understood and had empathy for people who were going through and realized that that was something I had to do. I didn't want to, and they were very honest.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It happens. It
yeah,
happens.
and yeah.
Yeah, I think certain things come with a certain life experiences and a level of maturity. I'm chiming in and gonna be very transparent here. I am a caring person, but when it comes to people being sick, I tend to run. And
Mm,
I feel like it's a horrible thing. I feel like it's horrible. And just recently I had to come to grips with it and just be like, okay, when push comes to shove, if my and specifically my parents, if push come to shove and they needed caregiving, am I gonna be able to step up to the plate? Like,
mm,
I had to ask myself that hard question. And I have to say, like, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the answer might have been no. The
mm.
answer might have been
Okay,
no.
okay.
The answer now, and I'll put it in a little bit of context. I do have sisters who more than likely would step up, right? But after some life experiences and after like really being faced with, hey, there are some health issues happening, I think the answer has changed. But
Mm-hmm,
because my answer would have been no, probably 4 years ago or 5 years
mm-hmm,
ago, I kind of have some grace for the people who just don't have it in them. They just don't
mm-hmm.
have it in them. I think
Okay,
for me, it
yeah,
was more fear, though. It was more like, I just don't want to see my person like this. I don't want to see my people like this, you
right.
know?
But it was
And
about you.
yeah, it's
I mean,
selfish.
about.
It's selfish. Listen, I told y'all this is not the pretty picture. Okay, I'm
Okay.
putting the real deal out here because maybe there's somebody out there who feels like I felt,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was selfish. It
Yeah.
was, and I think life experiences kind of help you to learn. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
would you want somebody to do it for you? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's your
we
people.
we had someone on here, Stacy J, and I remember I interviewed her twice, and what I thought was very interesting about her is that, you know, she didn't have a good relationship with her mom. She loved her mom, but
Mm,
her mom lived in another state. She lived in another state, and they would contact each other, talk to each other, but it wasn't that kind of relationship. But when her mom got sick, she realized, like, okay, it's on me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and she did it, and she did a wonderful job, and she learned so much, and she, you know, it was like she was the one that had to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um, and she had to got a chance to build that relationship with her mother.
Yeah.
So that was good. And sometimes it's also the relationship. You got to, you know, keep in mind
Mm-hmm.
the relationship that you have with your elder adults in your family. You know, let's try to clear up some things before their need. You
Yeah.
know, and if we can clear up some things and make some peace before that, it
Mm-hmm.
makes it easier to take care of them.
This is good. Oh my goodness, this is good, Francine. So Deborah said, "I hear you. Life will make you change your mind," and that's true, Deborah.
Yeah.
Life will make you change your mind. You'll figure
Yeah.
out, like, hey, sometimes you just got to step up. So, Francine, the question I had before,
Mhm.
see, I forgot it. That's why I had. That's why I told you.
You're talking about burnout. Yeah.
Yes, when you do find yourself in a place of burnout,
Hmm.
and this is we're talking about caregivers here, but it could be for anybody.
Yeah.
Before we answer that question, though, for those of you who may not know what we're talking about this past Sunday's episode of the Autumn is Here podcast. Beauty was the guest, and she talked about being burnt out, even though she did have support. So when you are burnt out and you recognize it, because some people don't even recognize it, but when you do recognize it, what do you do?
Well, you know, first, that's a good point. You have to recognize it first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because a lot
Yeah.
of times you don't recognize because you're just going through. You're just going through and you don't recognize it.
Hmm.
Or you recognize till when it's too late, when it affects you physically or emotionally and you break down. And, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the thing with burnout is you have to interject some things for yourself. You cannot forget yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Some things
Mm-hmm.
that you need. Um, if you feel like you're burned out, you need to take a step away. You need to
Mm-hmm.
ask for that help. You need to ask for that help. You can call different places. They have hotlines where you can call and you can say, I just need to talk. Like I know the Alzheimer's Association has a where you call someone and they'll just say, I just need to talk. Like, and that's it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to recognize that and hopefully, you know, what I think is good if you have friends around you and maybe they don't understand what you're going through, but I would tell my friends, listen, if and this is in hindsight, this is not what I did, but I would tell my friends, listen, this is a lot and I know y'all don't understand, but if you ever see me where you think I'm just worn out, I'm tired, I'm not myself, you know, pull my coat,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let me know, help me out, you know, let help me out because sometimes you can't get out of it because you're in a routine. um, and you don't even see it. So let your friends and your surrounding people know and your family know, like, okay, listen, this is a lot, and I can't tell you, you know, I got it now, but I might get into a place where you know you'll realize that wow, she's changing, or she's bitter, or she's withdrawing, or you know, you see
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not myself at all, and it's repeating. Say something to me,
Yeah.
give me that break, pull me out, talk to me, let me, you know, let me recognize it, help me to see it so I can,
Woo.
you know, help myself to, you know, get out of it or not be burned out, you know. And you have to
Yeah.
take time once you feel like you're burned out, you got to step away, you got to step away some way or somehow. And I don't mean necessarily just physically away, but emotionally away. You know, you got to think about it, you got to get to that place where it's like, okay, I need a breather.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether it's to ask for help, whether it's professional help, or whether it's a neighbor, a friend, or something like that, or whether it's, you know, sometimes it's to go into another room. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can have you can have one really hard day. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
one day where you had to take them to the hospital and do this and get the medicine and do this and do that, and you're just like, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remove yourself. Make sure they're safe. Remove yourself. Go in the other
Mm-hmm.
room, whatever you have to do. Sit in the bathroom, whatever you have to do. Okay, cry, whatever. You
Yeah.
know, get it out.
Yeah.
Don't forget yourself.
I love that. I love that. Deborah said, stress sneaks up on you. The stress sneaks up on you. And that is so
Yeah,
true. That is
yeah.
so true. I was taking a few notes while you were talking. Sharon also said while you were talking, yes, that's great advice and it's a must.
Mhm.
So I was taking some notes while you were talking because I said it before, the thread that brings us all together is just, it's so visible and it's, so real. Being a caregiver, but also just other aspects of life, we can
Mhm.
all use these tips. So I'm just going to do a little run through of what you just said. Wisdom from Francine, okay? Recognize the burnout, or recognize that you are burnt out. Do something for yourself. All right. Anybody taking notes, go ahead and take some notes so we can use this in life. Francine, you mentioned calling a hotline. Can you share more about that hotline? Do you know any more
Well,
information
they
about it?
have like I was explaining, like Alzheimer's and places like that. You can call them. They have helplines. They call helplines
Okay.
and hotlines.
Oops,
Helplines.
sorry. See, look
It's
at me.
okay.
Look at
No,
that.
I said it wrong. I said it wrong. And they can give you whatever help you need, but they have helplines where you can just talk to them. You can get help or support. No, New York Connects. Well, we're in New York, so I know about New York. New York Connects can give you some
Okay.
help with that. People, you never know what people are going through. They have helplines for mental illness like NAMI. They have helplines. Call them. I'm stressed out. I need some help. I don't know what to do. You
Nice.
know. Yeah.
Love it. So I'm just gonna put those on the screen just real quick in case somebody wants to screenshot. New York Connects and NAMI are resources that you can use. This was a really good one that you said. Give your friends permission to help you. And you said a little bit more than that, but I just typed that part. But giving the people in your life permissions to check you, basically, like, hey, I see
Mhm.
you're not yourself, like, let's snap out of it, or whatever, however
Right.
they talk to you and can get to you.
Right.
And I think that's helpful in many many ways in life. But
Yeah.
the permission part is important.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you don't give that permission, sometimes people don't think that they
Right.
have
Right.
space to do that with you
Right.
know
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. They feel like, she's seen, I notice stuff, but I don't want to make her more upset. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I
Hmm.
don't want to make her more upset. So they don't say
Hmm.
anything. Yeah.
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 And you giving that permission also kind of de escalates the situation, even in your mind, because you're
Mm.
like, oh, I told them to do
Right.
this,
And they're doing it
so
right.
they're not ganging up on me. I asked them to do this,
Yeah.
and you can receive it better. I love that. You said remove yourself from the situation, whatever it is,
Hmm.
and just let it out. Cry, do whatever it is you need to do. If that was helpful for you all, let us know in the comments if you were able to screenshot some of those, if those were helpful for you. Yeah, I think we can use those in any point in life, as well as being caregivers. Sharon
Hmm.
said you can't lose yourself as a caregiver because you can. I'm sorry, you can't lose yourself as a caregiver because you can and not be aware that it is happening. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Were there some other points in that stuck out to you in the interview with Beauty?
Well, Beauty was very, very transparent.
Hmm.
And one of the things was her concern. She was saying, she straight up said that, the elderly are not really taken care of as, as far as the city or the government or state, because they make it so hard for you to get help. Like, even if there's help there, it's all the things that you have to go through, and if you're older and you don't have help, or you don't have children, or you don't have somebody who's doing your business, then how are you going to get through those things, And she said they're underserved. They're absolutely
Hmm.
underserved, the senior
Hmm.
community, and it's a shame. It's a
Yeah,
shame. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That, I think that's something that has resonated through many of our talks here on My Two Cents. That
Hmm.
we need to pay more attention to our elderly and just treat them with humanity, and
Hmm.
make sure they have the things that they need. Deborah said, definitely those tips that you gave, Francine, were helpful. Thank you,
Thank
Deborah.
you.
So, everybody, thank you guys for watching today. Let us know where you're watching from. Chime in, give us some comments in the comment section. Make sure you share this with somebody, like it, love it,
Hmm.
all of the things. And make sure you listen to Autumn is Here podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. Francine, before we end this particular episode of My Two Cents,
Hmm.
do you have anything that you want to leave the audience with that we haven't talked about so far?
Well, I just want people to know that, I mean, it takes anything can happen and you can become a caregiver. So it's good to take notes. It's good to, be sensitive to other people who are caregivers. Sometimes we don't mean to not be sensitive, but sometimes we will say things that we normally would say and not consider their situation. So just be kind. Be kind to be kind to each other anyway, but be a little more sensitive to people who are caregivers, because it's really hard to you can't predict what's going to happen from day to day, and they're always giving, and sometimes you need to be replenished. And if there's a way to replenish them, give them a card, let them know that you see them, whatever it is, reach out to a caregiver. That's what I like to say. Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know where Evelyn went, but
I'm here.
yeah. So anyway, but that's, yeah, absolutely. And and that's why we're gonna celebrate caregivers on December 28th in Brooklyn at Christ Fellowship Baptist Church. Tickets at $25. It's going to be a comedy show, and we're going to celebrate caregivers because people don't realize how tough it is, and everyone will be touched by this. Either you're going to be a caregiver or you're going to need care. So you need to know some things ahead of time, you know. And if you're a senior, invite your family into your business, okay? Because some people don't want to do that. They don't want to intrude. Invite them in. Let them know just in case something happens, you know, all your information and stuff like that. Pick your person. Pick your person that you trust with your business and get the paperwork together. Pick them now before someone is assigned to you that you don't want to take care of you.
I love that. I love that advice. Listen, Lizette getting me on my job. She said, your show is coming up on the 28th, right? Yes,
Yes,
Lizette.
it
Yes,
is coming up
Lizette.
on
We're
the
going to pop it
28th.
up on the screen. Let's go.
so, so
Comedy for
thank you.
caregivers.
You can get your tickets from me. You can get your tickets from my website, autumnishere.com. Just go to shop and you can get your tickets, or you can get your tickets from Eventbrite, um, and or call me and we can get you some tickets. And please, just come out and enjoy and celebrate with us. Celebrate with us. It's a good reason to come out. It's a good reason to laugh, and it's going to be a good group of people to be with.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, y'all. This was my 2 cents. It's getting better and better every time. I love
Yeah.
it. Thank y'all
And
for chiming in. Thank you for all your comments. Sharon said yes. Yes,
oh,
Sharon.
thank you. And remember, don't say I didn't tell you. Okay.
Listen.
Nobody told me, but not because they were being mean or rude or whatever. It was just there was nobody around to tell me. You have Autumn is here. You have Autumn is here to tell you. So tell you, I'm telling you, tell a friend, share it with somebody.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for signing on.